On the 12th of June, 2009, a man arrived in a small Irish town called Sligo, checked into a hotel under a fake name, paid in cash, cut every single label out of every piece of clothing he owned, and spent the next 4 days making absolutely sure that when he died, nobody would ever know who he was. He succeeded. 16 years later, the man known only as Peter Bergman has never been identified. He first appeared on camera at the Ulster bus depot in Derry, Northern Ireland, carrying a black shoulder bag and a small piece of luggage. Nothing about him stood out. He looked like any other middle-aged professional passing through. He boarded a bus to Sligo, arrived at 6:28 that evening, and took a taxi straight to the Sligo City Hotel. At the front desk, he paid for 3 nights in cash. He gave his name as Peter Bergman, and he provided an address, Einstedersen 15, 4472, Vienna, Austria. Every single detail was false. The name didn't exist. The address didn't exist. The postcode didn't even belong to Vienna. Investigators later confirmed that no street with that spelling exists anywhere in Austria or Germany. The man had not made a simple mistake. He had constructed an identity specifically designed to lead nowhere. Hotel staff described him as well-groomed and professional-looking, around 5 feet 10, short gray hair, blue eyes, olive complexion, a heavy German accent, a chain smoker who stepped outside regularly but kept entirely to himself. By all appearances, just a quiet businessman passing through a quiet Irish town, but the CCTV footage told a very different story. Every single day of his stay, the man left the hotel carrying a purple plastic bag that was clearly full of something, and every single time he came back, the bag was empty. He did this 13 times over 3 days, and investigators noticed something even more disturbing. Every single time he disposed of whatever was inside that bag, he did it in the exact blind spots of the town's surveillance cameras. He knew where every camera was. He knew exactly which routes to take to avoid them, and he used that knowledge every single time, without fail. He was not wandering. He was not exploring. He was erasing himself, piece by piece, day by day. On the morning of the 13th of June, he walked to the Sligo post office at 10:49 and purchased 8 stamps and a set of airmail stickers. 8 stamps, enough for 8 letters, to 8 different people, or perhaps the same person 8 times. Nobody knows. No letter was ever traced. No recipient ever came forward. On the 14th, he hailed a taxi and asked the driver to take him somewhere quiet, somewhere with a nice beach, somewhere he could swim. The driver took him to Ross's Point, a beautiful stretch of coastline just outside Sligo. The man looked at it for a few minutes, then asked to be driven straight back to town. He wasn't ready yet. On the 15th of June, he checked out of the hotel at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. He walked to the bus station, stopped at a nearby shopping center, and stood in the doorway for several minutes, like a man deciding whether to turn back. He didn't turn back. At the bus station cafe, he ordered a cappuccino and a toasted ham and cheese sandwich. He pulled a small piece of paper from his pocket. He folded it, opened it, folded it again, read it over and over. Then he tore it in half and dropped it in the bin. Investigators believe that piece of paper was a checklist, a list of everything he needed to do before the end. He boarded the bus to Ross's Point at 2:20 in the afternoon, and for the next 8 hours, he walked that beach alone. 16 different people saw him that evening, fully dressed, shoes in his hand, moving slowly up and down the shoreline. Some said he looked nervous, others said he looked peaceful. A couple walking nearby noticed him standing ankle-deep in the water, staring directly into the setting sun, still, silent, like a man saying goodbye to something only he could see. At 11:50 that night, he was seen for the very last time. At 6:45 the following morning, a father and son training for a triathlon on Ross's Point Beach found his body near the water's edge. His clothes and belongings were scattered on rocks around 300 meters away. His jacket, his trousers, his shoes, but his glasses and a blue cardigan he had been wearing that evening were never found. The autopsy that followed answered some questions and created far more. He had terminal prostate cancer, bone tumors throughout his entire body, severe ischemic heart disease. He had suffered multiple heart attacks before this day. He had only 1 kidney, and he had a gold tooth at the back of his mouth. His dental work suggested a lifetime of professional care, meaning at some point, this man had money, had a life, had a dentist who knew his name. Doctors confirmed that the bone tumors alone would have caused him constant, unbearable pain, and yet there were no painkillers in his system, no medication of any kind. He had been suffering every single day, in silence. His cause of death was confirmed as cardiac arrest, not not drowning. His heart simply gave out in the water, and his body was carried back to shore by the tide. Police searched every missing persons database across Europe, America, and beyond. No match, no fingerprint match, no DNA match. Nobody reported missing who fit his description. No family came forward, no friends, no colleagues, nobody. It was as if this man had never existed at all. After 5 months of investigation, with no answers and no one to claim him, he was buried in an unmarked grave in Sligo Cemetery on the 18th of September, 2009. 6 people attended his funeral. 4 of them were police officers. The detective who has since overseen the case was once asked a simple question: why Sligo? Of all the places in the world, why did this man choose a small town on the west coast of Ireland to spend his final 4 days? His answer was this: if you want a scenic place to die, you're spoiled for choice across the west coast of Ireland. Something must have brought him here, even if we've never been able to say what that was. There are theories that he was a spy, that he was a former intelligence agent trained to cover his tracks, that the way he navigated surveillance cameras and methodically destroyed every piece of his identity pointed to professional training rather than careful planning. Some have even theorized that he was connected to figures in organized crime, or that he was not alone in his death. But the most accepted theory, the one that sits heaviest, is the simplest one: that this was a dying man, a man who knew exactly how much time he had left, who chose where, when, and how he wanted to spend his final days, who spent those days quietly erasing every connection he had to a world he was already leaving, who bought 8 stamps and perhaps sent 8 final goodbyes to the 8 people in his life who mattered most, who tore up his checklist when everything was done, and who stood on a beach at midnight watching the Atlantic Ocean and simply let go. He wanted to fade away completely, and in trying to become no one, he became impossible to forget.